You're listening to The Licensing Exchange, part of the Look Legal Pods from the law firm Nolan Hyman, lawyers for creative business makers. And now, here are your hosts, attorneys David Schneider and Greg Pan.
So today we've got not one, but two powerhouse guests in the studio. First up, Derrick Baca, a licensing industry veteran with a proven track record of scaling product brands and developing their brand strategy. Joining him, Liz DeSilva, a creative force who brings a deep understanding of fandom and trends and is able to translate those styles and storytelling into fashion, accessories, and collectibles. If you don't know them, you have seen their work in the wild as part of the creative, collectible, and culture-shaping products in the industry. Derrick and Liz have worked for Hybrid Apparel, one of the largest licensees in the US for entertainment and character-driven fashion. Then they continue their creative and brand building endeavors at Loungefly, which, if you're not familiar, make those very trendy mini backpacks that you see everywhere, especially at theme parks. Today, they're the dynamic duo behind the Whatever Company, which is a private label and licensed novelty merchandise company, working with some of the trendiest licenses and serving well-known specialty retailers. So, Derrick and Liz, welcome to the show. We're very excited to have this conversation. We're going to be very creative focused, which is great. That's both your backgrounds. Um, we do want to get into what you've been doing in Whatever Company and how you got there, but I think it's important to kind of know a little bit of your history in the licensing industry. How did you get your feet into doing licensing, and kind of what drew you towards working with these brands?
All right. Well, I can start. Well, number one, thank you for having us. I really appreciate the opportunity. For me personally, I started out in the industry as a buyer at retail. So going back to the 90s, I was a t-shirt buyer for a little company called Mr. Rags, and I started buying licensed products. And then around the year 2000, Hot Topic recruited me, and I became the t-shirt buyer and apparel buyer there as well. And as I worked my way up and became a divisional merchandise manager, and really my mentor, Cindy Levitt, in the industry, kind of taught me the ways of the licensing world. And really, that's kind of one of the biggest, I would say, steps into the world of licensing. After I left Hot Topic, I joined Hybrid Apparel to run their licensing division. So, really working with all of the major studios and small independent boutiques in terms of IP. And so, as I went to Loungefly, I kind of stepped back from the licensing day to day and really went into the merchandising, but really licensing is all a part of the entire process. And then with Liz joining also at Whatever Company, again, very active in the licensing area, but not the day to day business. But it really helps us determine our merchandising strategies for going forward, what license we want or not. So,
I entered the industry through the fashion world. I started my career after going to Otis College at Self Esteem Clothing, designing and drawing cute little animals for girls' clothing. And I got my first taste of the licensing world when they got a candy license. And I really, really enjoyed being able to work with iconic brands that I grew up with. And when an opportunity arose at Hybrid Apparel, um, it really intrigued me to be able to work with the Disneys and the Warner Brothers and the Nickelodeons of the world, and as, like, an avid pop culture fan and especially huge Disney collector, I definitely was intrigued by the job, and it all worked out, and I've been in licensing ever since.
So, when you started working at Loungefly, it was a pretty well-known brand. It was very popular with fans, but it really exploded when you were there. Can you tell us a little bit about that growth and how you were able to kind of tap into that fandom and turn Loungefly into like a household brand?
I think from my, creative perspective, Loungefly had great bones, right? They had some great silhouettes and some great partners and licensed partners, and what Derek and I really tried to do was give it some very ownable details and things for the fans to grab onto. We really built up a community of fans on social media and really gave everyone a place to celebrate their fandoms. So we had good bones, but really built it into more of a lifestyle brand than it existed as previously, and expanded it into global parks and got eyes on it, around the world.
I think another thing that we focused on as well is we expanded the distribution. So originally, I would say when we first got there, a majority of their volume came from a very few amount of customers. So it was a strategy of opening up to all the mom and pops and the independent boutiques in the nation. I've always called them the forgotten tier of distribution. So really going towards them and getting involved in. We used to do shop small Saturdays, really pushing and driving customers to go to small shops. And then also, obviously, at that time, Funko had acquired Loungefly, and so they also had global distribution. So in Europe, there was Funko UK and Europe overall. So that expanded. Then we went to Australia, et cetera, that kind of thing. So aside from the Disney parks, the Universal parks, that we really got that global spark, but the Funko was blowing up as well. So that allowed us those opportunities to get into those
I think
markets.
we I think we also focused on more unique fringe licenses. We focused on a lot of licenses within even, like, the larger Disney portfolio that the companies wouldn't really take a chance on, things that didn't have assets, things that had great fan communities behind them, but they never had any merch to buy. So we came out with things that nobody ever had anything to buy before. So random, Robin Hood, didn't have merch, Disney's The Brave Little Tailor, just some, like, really fun fringe things that we created a lot of artwork for, and I think also going outside of Style Guide, which is something, we're really well known for, really, really helped build Loungefly by creating unique art that wasn't available anywhere else.
And we really tried to make Loungefly a collectible accessory company. I remember
Mhm.
having a conversation with Brian Mariotti at the time going, accessories aren't collectibles, backpacks aren't collectibles, and going, no, 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 wait. So really we talked about and really focus on our website to do limited edition. We're only going to make 600 of these or 1,000 of these. It really, I would say during the pandemic, when a lot of retailers closed, when we did these limited edition exclusives on our website, it went kind of hysteria. And then we started working with even mom and pops, and they were able to purchase the quantities to get these exclusives. So that exclusivity, the lack of like opportunity to get merchandise at retail stores because everyone's at home, that all kind of catapulted the overall volume as well.
Liz, you talked a little bit about picking less known licenses and brands. What was kind of your methodology for picking those more obscure ones?
I think being a fan, when you're shopping, you're seeing a lot of the same, right? And it's totally understandable because once you get into the licensing industry and you see everybody's working from those same style guides. But if you are an avid park goer, like me, you see that people are actively going out and creating their own merch, or you'll dig up stuff on Etsy because there's nothing to buy. So the fact that I would see it out in the world and people were creating their own, there is a demand for it, but there's nothing on the studio side to provide for those fans. So I think between creating unique art styles that didn't exist and giving those fandoms some love. Like, I remember people getting so excited about the rescuers and getting, and rescue rangers and some of the more unique things that you used to love, and there's never ever been merged. So, I think it was just showing that we could really be an accessory company that had something for fans of everything, not just the big blockbuster characters.
And I think that the licensors, through our track record working with them for so many years, really trusted Liz and I because we were those nerds that really understood the properties and what the really a real IP was about, and through Liz's creative direction, really paid the proper homage to the actual IP, and it was never too off model or anything like that, and she worked really closely with a lot of the CP teams that, really allowed the opportunity to have our unique vision, our unique kinda art style to do it. Because at the time, I would say that you've seen the Redbubble, you've seen the Threadless, you've seen all these like artists collectives trying to do this stuff, but it's never like approved. It's always on that bootleg site. So Liz and she always has the best artists that she always works with. And so being able to work closely with these studios, the studios trusted to be able to bring a different point of view, but still follow the guidelines.
Yeah.
Do you feel like when you're picking sometimes these less well-known or niche properties that you're taking a risk, or are you confident in the market research, what you're seeing in the market, that it's gonna work most of the time?
Always a risk. I would say it just always is. There are trend followers, there's trend setters, and I think if you take things in a unique way, not everything will work. So you do take that risk, but not everything works that you think is going to work too. At one point, Marvel or DC or all these superheroes, they don't always work too because they get saturation in a market for even things like that. So I think that because the licensing industry and the licensing competition, let's say if you're Disney or Warner Brothers or any of these big studios, you typically have, between 2 and 4 competitors in your space, all utilizing the same thing. So in that case, what can you offer that's not going to be that top A property all the time? And sometimes, like, when you're a brand as well, it's okay to do these smaller things and be differentiated in the market so people and fans know that they're gonna come to something unique there. If they need something that's wildly popular or a huge movie, they know they can go to a Walmart or a Target or any of those kind of places to find that merchandise.
Are there particular hits or misses you can share with us? Things where you were surprised that something did really well or really poorly?
Ooh, I have a hit. So I did a whole Disney, like, Mickey and Minnie ghost floral ghost collection, and it was, like, super girly, it was bows and flowers, and Derrick I remember Derrick being like, "Are you sure about this, Liz? This is weird," It's a little out there, and I was like, "No, I really feel like this is where the trend's going, people are gonna get it," and, 2 years after that, it's essentially, like, the entire theme of Disney Parks Halloween collection this year, so I definitely think sometimes taking a chance is I mean, always I think you have to take chances if you're gonna be a brand that matters and a brand that's, staying on top, you have to continue to not just try new trends, but create trends and create that new innovation, because I always say, well, everybody's busy copying what you did, as long as you're not worried about them and you're focusing on the next new thing to offer your fans, you'll always, like, stay ahead of the game. Derek, I'm trying to think about a miss.
I would say that
Maybe taking Star Wars
well,
too
there's
deep.
that. So at Loungefly, I would say that we're predominantly a female, I would say,
Yeah.
customer overall, ladies' handbags. I would say we tried a lot of DC superheroes, and they were always really challenging because I think it was a little more male, and we didn't have that many male silhouettes. But, you wanna support your licensing partners and put stuff in the market, but overall, I mean, as a brand too, we never really had major misses in terms of we were always forecasting our purchases ahead of time and getting the interest quantities. So when we make our purchase decisions, we kind of have the placement. We're not just bringing in inventory and hoping it sells kind of a thing. But in terms
Right.
of just overall rate and selling online, we did see some like it's more of those male type of things as even some Marvel or like some Star Wars or just dude heavy products didn't always work for that particular brand.
Liz, you talked a little about style guides and kind of going off road and coming up with your own art. For listeners who are not familiar, can you kind of describe what the style guides are and kind of how you convince licensors to not follow them and make your own thing?
Yeah, so style guides are created by the studios to give to all their partners in consumer products to create their categories, and they usually include a handful of character poses, some spot graphics, some all over prints. But those style guides are typically shared amongst all their partners. Sometimes there's an exclusive one for a retailer, but then you're still competing with that same artwork with other manufacturers. So I really found success in convincing the studios to let us create not just unique to us, but unique to retailers too, creating different looks and feels for different retailers. Like within Marvel, we went into like some like 70s comic book looks and like the neon colors and in Star Wars created some like Art Nouveau, like really beautiful female focused Art Nouveau art. In Disney, we created everything, but I think one that people can see out now is we did beautiful like stained glass Disney princesses and just creating all of that art in house just allows you to not only separate from other partners but to give your retail partners something unique so that in the specialty world everybody wants to have that unique fan focused collection, and if you're working outside a style guide, you can, be the first to bring a new look to market and offer that to your partners. And that's really, I think, where I and Derrick have really grown our reputation, where we put a lot of energy into differentiating unique product in the market.
I think the challenge for licensors is that when they're building style guides, they have to take into account companies that maybe don't have deep creative teams, and so they have to keep it on a certain level of basic. And we've been mostly involved in, like, I would say, specialty type retail, except when we're a hybrid. Obviously, you did stuff for mass and discount and all that kind of stuff. But really, you'll get a style guide where sometimes it almost feels like it's a packaging guide, that they're they're more concerned about the packaging than the actual art. But then if you get art, and you'll get, like Liz said, a pose or 2. But I think one of the interesting things that Liz and I would do when we would decide to go into a property is we would actually watch that movie or watch that cartoon. We would take screenshots of specific, in the if you know moments, and then go, "Okay, these assets don't exist, but this is a moment," and that's where we would be able to work with the character artists of the different studios or different, licensors, and say, "We wanna do this." There's a lot of pre-work to getting that done, so, really, we have to create a bunch of trend boards. We have to have the actual images of what we wanna do and work through that, because the approval timeline when doing that could take weeks and months. So it's a thing you take on when you wanna do that.
And do you find that the licensors are usually open to that kind of creative work, the departures from their style guide?
It took time. I would say it took time and people used to what we do, not always at front. I think it's different by the tip type of license. If it's an anime out of Japan, I'm gonna say no. They are not interested in anything like that. But some of the, like, I would say smaller IPs are just building their brands. They are very open to it. So I guess it all depends.
Yeah. I mean, we've redrawn everything from Disney to Star Wars, Nickelodeon. Just recently I redrew strawberry shortcake. I mean, there are a lot of partners that are open to it because really you're helping them. You're helping them not have to create more assets, and you're creating more retail moments for them. So the ones that allow us to, been able to, really grow great partnerships and great retail collections. And I love working with those studios.
Yeah, to me, it sounds impossible because I've worked with the licensors, the Disney and Marvel, and they have extensive creative departments. These people have held these jobs for decades and have created all these style guides for every single new property, new movie. They're not cheap either. Style guides can easily cost 40,000, even $100,000 to develop and produce. They don't just slap them together with a bunch of images. So to kind of go to them and say, "Hey, your style guide's great, but we actually don't think it's great. We want to make our own stuff because we think this is what the fandom wants." Trust me, like, many licensees have tried, and it's almost like always an automatic rejection. So I was just curious, like, do you kind of come up with this style and show it to them, or do you kind of get buy-in from retailers and buyers, or what's kind of your approach?
Well, Liz, for
Yeah.
before you do that, really quick, the best parts of going to these summits, and when we talk about creative, it's usually after the end of the summit or end of them presenting, they would always ask Liz and I, "Okay, now what do you think? What could you use? What do you think you should do different?" They were always waiting for out, because we always had a presentation about their brands to be after they presented us. So I'll let Liz finish that.
Yeah, so definitely always a super collaborative process. That's the only way it works. And we would do quarterly or, twice a year meetings where I would pitch all my ideas, broken down by, say it's Disney, broken down by princess, Pixar, classics, villains, everything. And I put a lot of time and energy into the why, explaining why this trend's important, where it's coming from, which retailers I see buying this. So nothing is ever shown to a retailer like that until there's that partnership with the studio. So it definitely is a process. It's not something if you're looking for a quick turn program to throw out there, but I think that the studios are open to it. They wanna be on trend, and their style guides, like you said, are massive, undertakings, but that also includes working way ahead. And so your ability to react quickly to trend is pretty limited when you're working that way as a major studio, whereas for me, we're smaller and nimble, and we have, great artists that we're working with, I can turn an asset pack in a week if I need to. So, we have that flexibility that we can offer that to the studios.
And I think every IP owner or studio, whatever, they have their own point of view when it comes to creative direction. And so not everything fits into this glitch trend or this like they will always come out with like 3 or 4 different trends, but like on a macro level, that may work because I saw something in Japan or some Europe or this and that, but, like, there's so many trends happening by tier of distribution or even retailer that you just can't use those things as well. So, I think that their challenge is they have to put something out there in terms of the style guides and their visual directions that, again, the companies that don't have those people out in the market or they're just pumping out produced stuff that they don't have the time to really get that creative, and they utilize those style guides just to put it out in the market.
I know sometimes you're working with existing properties, sometimes you're working with newer properties. When it's a newer property that isn't as established in the market, like I know you guys were, I think, early on board with the Minions. How do you find properties that you think are going to do well and assign into them, early on when you don't have the kind of nostalgia and market presence that you do with the more established properties?
That's always a crapshoot. I would say that the licensors have their job to sell it. There are RBD teams that go to the retailers to try to get programs based on the marketing that they have. I mean, when I was at Hybrid, I mean, one of the first things I did sign was Despicable Me. And I did decide to sign that and convince the ownership to sign it because I did see one little yellow minion, and from my history of buying, I knew that little yellow things sold, so I remember Pokemon, I remember Pac-Man, so I was like, "Yep, Tweety Bird, like, little yellow things will sell," so I decided to go on that, but even when we first launched, it was still kinda underknown, and I only had a couple retailers even testing it. But then the movie happened and it did what it did, and it was wildly successful, but for every Despicable Me new property, I've had some other very difficult things I thought would work that didn't work as well, so I think a lot of it has to do with your relationship at retail and how well your salespeople can really convince the buyers into this is gonna be important, and really, it's like those IP owners, how well their retail business development team is selling in the property as well. Because a lot of times buyers, they're going to react more so than anything. Now, when you're a big studio, you have I would say the financial means to be able to do bigger promotions and work with your retail partners so they work in a different manner. But new up and coming things, I remember Napoleon Dynamite when I was at Hot Topic. Like it was kind of we bought a couple things that movie hit. Man, we went bonkers trying to get as much product as possible. Now that was very specific to that, but no one could have predicted that. I think that Vote for Pedro shirt was like the biggest t-shirt in the history of that company. And even take Frozen, for example. Like Disney didn't know what they had. That thing came out, and then I felt like it was a year and a half before retailers really even finally got on board to getting it all. So
I
you
mean,
win
look
so
at
once.
K-pop Demon Hunters. Look at what's happening
Yeah.
right now. No one was ready for that. No one.
I mean, Sony sold it and made a good chunk, but not what Netflix is gonna make from it now.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I think, Disney, they looked at Tangled and, Princess and the Frog and kinda said, "Oh, Frozen's probably gonna do similar." They kind of based on that because they don't want to overproduce or make too much, and they stuck with a problem where their stuff doesn't sell because that looks worse for them. But I guess for whatever reason, they didn't realize they can capitalize on Princess, Sisters. They didn't see the value in that initially.
I really think it's the power of music that touches a culture,
Yeah.
and any of that to K-pop's the same way, like, these certain movies that have music that touch the zeitgeist of culture. I mean, Let It Go became this big like, all of it. So, I think when you have that type of stuff, that's what's important.
I still have an Elsa wig somewhere here in my office. So, Derek, there's something I wanted to ask you about. You had talked about the small mom and pop shops. And I saw firsthand, I was in house at a company that worked with mom and pops and ultimately had to give up that market because they were costume sellers and they all got pushed out by the bigger retailers. Do you think that's still a viable market for collectibles?
Absolutely, I think it's interesting because a lot of big retailers, let's just take Pop Mart, for example. A lot of big retailers want to buy Pop Mart, but since they're opening their own stores here, like they can't get access to it. But all the mom and pops, they actually will have more access than even like the major retailers because it's a cool hip. It keeps that halo effect and search and kind of search for the item where it's not in the most available spaces. So if you go and try to find a Labubu anywhere, it's never going to be at a Hot Topic or a Spencer's or anything like that. It's going to be in that random anime shop that you're like, how did they get that kind of a thing? So I think in the collectible space, I think it's extremely important that tier distribution. So again, when we launched our new brand, whatever makes you happy, the mom and pops again is a big target for us because I think a lot of creators work very closely with these mom and pops where they don't have the access to work with the bigger retailers. And so as they're trying to build content and their followers, when they can partner with a smaller shop and get that kind of exposure, I just feel like it gives this sense of like community, the sense of the like importance to continue the economy going through these mom and pops. So I think that they get forgotten a lot and they're critically important.
But there's challenges too, right? Can you talk a bit about what are the challenges of working with
So
mom and pops, and just finding them too?
yeah, well, challenges. Well, there's a couple ways. One, when you do direct, but two, there are some distributors out there that have a big business. Now, obviously, we just saw what happened with Diamond, and
Mhm.
they're the turmoil going there. But there are some other distributors out there that are doing well and can reach there. I would say the biggest challenge is it's always credit. So you're working with a lot of credit cards with a lot of these people. Shipping, I mean, it could be all over the country. It's not it's like a centralized shipping place. There are logistical issues with that, and the quantities are always pretty low. But if you can stock inventory, you can make it available, you typically have way better margins when you sell to the mom and pops versus selling to a retailer. Because, like, for example, if you want to sell your product to a specialty retailer, they're going to expect 65 points. The mom and pops who are used to buying from, I would say, distributors, they're used to working on 20 to 40%, rarely 50%. So they're used to it being smaller margins because distributors, again, are buying from companies like us and then they're putting their markup on it, right? And so
Mhm.
when you can work directly, I think that's one of the big things when we work directly with mom and pops at Loungefly is that we were selling $80 backpacks, but they were able to buy them at our wholesale cost of 40 and they were making more money on a backpack than they would any toy product, like 5 toys or something like that. So I think that that also helped. But we had just an onslaught of those accounts are like, this is an actual huge money maker for them to keep the lights on. So, but
Right.
there are the challenges. It's I would say the challenges of like, oh, this guy got it before I did, or like they put it on sale too fast. And so it's this like policing state sometimes that kind of drove
It
me
is like a
crazy.
community of small shops. They definitely, like, all know each other and in a lot of cases support each other, but it is also, like, a competitive landscape. I will say that you asked about how do we find them? So I have honestly found so many of our current partners just by being on social media and just my For You page, like, organically from posting about, Miffy and killer clowns from outer space. I organically have found so many or spend 10 minutes searching around for other, fans of this or that, and it's social media is such an incredible tool in terms of just connecting where you couldn't do that before, and it's so much easier to find the people that should be selling your product.
Mhm.
And also on our website, we also have like a wholesale inquiry. And so if you're a mom and pop and you run across our brand, you go to our website, you can fill out a little form and then we can consider you as well.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about your company, but can you tell us about the Whatever company and what you guys are doing now?
Oh, whatever company, whatever it is you need, whatever you want. So we do a lot of things. So kind of broken up into, I would say, 3 segments. First segment, like you mentioned before, was kind of private label. So when a lot of retailers have their own licenses or DTRs, we become a manufacturer for them where we can design, develop, and then they'll submit it for approvals, and then we'll manufacture it, ship it to them. Or we're a traditional licensee where we have licenses ourselves, and then we will design for all the retailers, sell it, design, develop, etc. And then we've just recently launched a brand called Whatever Makes You Happy, and that brand includes bags, jewelry, a lot of mystery box, bag charms, enamel, small accessories, and things like that. A lot of what we do, no one's going to know about because when you do licensed product, it's not about your name. You're just the manufacturer and it says SpongeBob. You're not going to find what that is. And when you do DTRs, again, it's that retailer and there's the license. So when it's our brand, that's more of a halo brand. So I'd say our licensed manufactured stuff and our DTR stuff is price point conscious to fit a retailer's margin structure. And then our brand is a little bit more halo, a little bit higher priced, but still very affordable in the world of branded, but it's a different quality level as well.
And I'd say that our brand, like our major focus there is really bringing joy in a time of it's just rough, being an adulting in this world is not the easiest, just existing in this world, people are struggling and there's this escape, right? In pop culture, there's this beautiful escape, whether it's a feeling of nostalgia or it's just you escaping your current reality and watching the new episode of Peacemaker or Wednesday or whatever it is, whatever world you want to escape into, whether it's a book, it's TV, whatever it is. And our brand really just kind of celebrates that and makes it okay and gives you a little mystery box to open at the end of the day that you can not just display in your home but carry with you, which I love. And I really think that we're just trying to bring a little bit of happiness and let people know that no matter what your age is, it's okay to have those bits of joy in your life and to have that escape. It's
And I think
100% okay.
it's all ages too, from young to my mom, who's 72, loves to buy mystery box toys and just opening
Mm.
it and just having that excitement of like, what am I going to get? So I think that
Yep.
culture is really healthy considering the current climate that's going on right now.
Is there a particular type of licenses that you're pursuing, whether it's nostalgia or kind of more fun and cute type of brands?
I
Well,
think it's definitely a mix of nostalgia and a lot of our brand ideation came, during a trip to Tokyo. We really, really love Japan's attention to detail and the way they, support the fans by putting the in the know details into the bags. I always love Sanrio says, "Small gift, big smile." And so I've always fully believed that those details matter, and I think the details are from functionality and design. And so we're really striving to hit those details on both sides and really offer something different. And when we look at licenses, we're doing the same. There's some evergreen licenses that we feel like we can really refresh and offer something different and unique, as well as going into some new licenses. Like, we're having a lot of fun with San X and Real Akuma and Sumiko Gurashi and all these great things that don't have a ton of placement. So I think we're very open to licenses that fit our mission of bringing joy, and some of these more fringe licenses have such an amazing story behind them that I love to then interpret that story into product.
I think Pop Mart has had a real impact on the retail landscape because it's not even their licensed products, it's their own internal brands. If it's cute, it's gonna sell, and I think that there's a lot of licenses out there that never got the attention or even the opportunity because it wasn't one of the big ones and you didn't know it, but now we have opportunities of testing so many more licenses that are just adorable, and if you could do cute plush or pins or all these kind of, like, impulse blind box things, it's almost like, "Oh, that's adorable. I don't even know what it is. I'm gonna learn about this." I think people are open to learning more about new things and expanding their fandom versus just the same kind of things that have always been there. But even so in the world of, like, blind boxes, it's been predominantly plush and just action figure toys or things like that. We're getting into
Vinyl figures.
all different types of blind box things, whether it is a bag charm, it's dangled keychains. I mean, even buttons, like you can put things, anything into a blind box, and then it's just as fun. So I think that we're actually adding different things in the market than just things that are always shown loose. I mean, we're seeing bags. Like, how can we do bags blind box? It's kind of a crazy idea, but I'm now seeing big, huge, like 1,000 scale plush items and vinyl toys that are sold for like $1,000 being sold. So kind of wide open.
I think, yeah, us and I'm sure others are definitely gonna push the boundaries of what you can expect in a mystery box. It has definitely been pretty limited so far, but I think you're gonna see some really extreme options for you to purchase in mystery form.
That's fascinating. I think that's kind of the story of licensing is, you can look at what movies are coming out and kind of listen to the big media brands and studios, like what are they going to push, but you can't really predict what's going to be popular, what's going to resonate with fans. And I think what we enjoy hearing from both of you is it's there's kind of a derogatory side of licensing where it's just logo slapping, where you just take something and just slap it on a shirt or a product, and there's no love put into it. And you both definitely see that there's a fan, there's a consumer at the end of this, at the end of this chain who needs to fall in love with the product, needs to actually like it. They're not just buying it because they're a fan. They need to resonate with the actual execution of it. So I think that that's what really has distinguished your careers from where you've been and where you are now. That's why you've been able to tap into these markets and succeed.
There is nothing, nothing that pains me more in this world than a logo slap collab that could have been amazing,
Mm.
but it's just a logo slap. That very much hurts my heart. So I think you nailed it with that.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things that we've been getting into for just overall whatever company has been these book properties. And so as we've just recently signed a Court of Thorn Roses, so ACOTAR as most people know it, like there's no movie, there's no like anything really to it. You have to know the book, you have to know insides of it and developing. You get some like a couple icons on the book and some pages and that, but it does force you to really get creative. And if you don't have fans working for you who actually know the properties, and I feel like Liz always does the best job of finding artists who are just the most deep into their fandoms. We have a great artist who's into horses and loves reading books. And so we're like, Akatar, this is the perfect thing. She's like, I've read all the books. I know exactly what to do because these even book publishers getting into licensing, they don't know about merchandise. They don't know anything about that stuff. So it really takes a licensee who's got a creative team to be put that together.
Yeah, young adult publishing is a completely untapped market in terms of licensing, and there's millions and millions of readers.
Yep, the spicy book talk world is an interesting one.
Don't judge, Derek. We all love a spicy book.
So yeah, thank you both for joining us today. It was great to hear your perspectives on the licensing industry, how you've been able to break out creatively and come up with identities for the products that you work with. And I'm sure the fans have been thankful. Again, buying a product it's not just buying merchandise because you're a fan, it's because you want to feel something. You want to tap into um, an escapism from the world that we're in. So you can kind of dive deep into your fandom. Thank you so much. It was great hearing from both of you.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
Thanks for listening to the Licensing Exchange. If you enjoyed the show, please share with others and kindly rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. For more information on how we can help with your own legal needs, check out our services at nolanhyman.com. That's NOLANHEIMANN.com.